That's what I'm using to sync the audio. Hello everyone, it's me, ya boy. About 2 weeks ago I posted on my community tab, putting out a call of action of sorts for my little community here. In the comments of this post was the first of an event I like to call Your Dudes. A bloodbath of epic proportions, with the victors gaining the dark favor of me, John, the Lich, in the laboratory. That's why they call it that. Actually, when's the last time I ever said laboratory? I always say Lich's lab. Anyways, the entrants were to post their custom faction in the comments, and then like other people's posts. And then after a week's time, whoever had the most likes were to be scooped up in my grimy little goblin hands, to be interpreted in my own vision. Be it 3 lines of lore or a novel's worth of details, it doesn't matter. I was going to try my best to materialize your faction into real space. And so from the fires of that hell rose 5 victors, all featured in today's video. Before we begin, I wanted to get in front of the camera, very loosely scripted, of course, and thank everyone here that's watching this video, and my community in general. With you guys being so generally supportive of me and the channel, it's allowed me to dabble in things like this video, and even open up a Patreon, but I'll get more into that later. I wanted to release this video on Thanksgiving as a way to scratch my nose, but also to let this be a thank you of sorts to the community that's been supporting me this entire time, whether it's on YouTube or Instagram, or if you're one of my patrons. It's humbling. It's very humbling to know that people are supportive of my efforts here. But yeah, I wanted to give back to the community at large, and I know just 5 minis ain't gonna cut it, but you know, that's why I wanted to do this little event. Just a little something to give back to you guys. So hopefully you guys will enjoy this a proportional amount to me having worried about my arbitrary deadline. But yeah, but yeah, let's just get into the video. You know me, I don't want to ramble too much, because I totally will. You gotta stop me. But yeah, we have 5 winners, 3 Chaos Marines, 1 Loyalist Marine, and 1 Necron. So we're gonna start with the first Chaos Space Marine, the Serpentine Truth. The Serpentine Truth are essentially Alpha Legionnaires with a Grecian aesthetic, as they have come to worship a minor chaos god, Phonos, the Serpent, who, yes, I struggled with immensely with pronunciation, so from now on, I'm just gonna call him Fitty. For this model, I chose this particular marine body due to the large set of tarouges, I think they're called, hanging on the front of the belt. When I think of Greece, my mind immediately calls to the superiority of the spear. So I wanted to use these Grey Knight arms to brandish humanity's mightiest weapon. I had to remove the arm-mounted storm bolter before attaching the arm though, so I did that, although it was off camera, so I didn't slice my fingers off. I attached only the left arm so I could leave the right arm and spear off as a subassembly, allowing me to paint the body more easily. For the backpack, head, and the right pauldron, I pilfered some Loyalist bits. The followers of Fitty are described as partly Loyalist, with only the main requirement being a pauldron from a Loyalist chapter of my choosing. Of course, I chose the Minotaurs, simply for the Grecian, but I also chose to use a Loyalist power pack and this Mark X helmet with a crest already molded onto it. It's the same helm I actually used for the Disciples of Caliban Relic Bearer, actually. Apparently I had printed 2 of them. At this point, I called it done, but somewhere along the line, I ended up returning to it. I think when I was about to start the 4th model, I wasn't really happy with it, looking at it on the table. Well, I had replaced the granite halberd head with this spiky-looking spear from the kit. Somewhere along the line, I felt like, I don't know, he looked a little timid. Like he was wielding his spear like a little bitch. To fix this problem, I ended up making cuts in the spear to essentially flip it around to a pose where he's ready to bring it down on some target on the ground. While I had to shorten the shaft a little to accommodate the new pose, it occurred to me when I was done that I had subconsciously emulated the pose of the Forge World Alfarius mini. And honestly, what better way is there to honor the Hydra himself? No, really, I'm asking. Let me know. Speak those words to your screen right now. I don't care that you're in public. I'm listening, really. Do it. Do it. For painting the Legionnaire, I started from a white primer and smashed on light gray like I normally do. In hindsight, though, I shouldn't have done the light gray. Normally I work with light gray, so any highlight areas that I do can be painted white. You know, because if you start painting with white, you don't have any highlights to advance to. But this Chaos Marine was a bunch of silver trim. I didn't really have anything to highlight. And I'm not one of those psychopaths or the heavy metal team that highlights flat lines on, like, look, this is a panel. There's no edge there. Don't highlight that. Like, I get why people do it, but I think it's dumb. As you'll see with the next Marine, he's also white, and you see for that mini, the white on it is just generally a lot more vibrant, like the marble white the original description for this warband called for. So when it comes to painting this, I think priming white and then just leaving it as is probably the way to go, given that it's also has a lot of silver trim. Depending on preference, you might be more okay with spraying it silver and then painting in the white. I think that would also work as well. But when it comes to white, I'd rather spray it on than brush it on, but that's just preference. Other than the general interaction of the white and silver here, which I feel kind of conflicted on in terms of contrast, but I'll get on that later. I ended up painting the crest and the pauldron blue, with the pauldron getting a little freehand work on it for the symbol. After that, I shaded the mini with a black wash, diluted 50-50 with some glaze medium. I then used some purple on the eyes and where the Minotaur's bronze coloration ended, and painted the spear, which got a green handle and a red pommel. And here is the completed Legionnaire for the Serpentine Truth. I'm glad I ended up switching the orientation of the spear. Maybe if I had planned it a little better beforehand, I could have had a more natural looking spear pose, or possibly even a spear and shield pose. But with just a few cuts, I think I salvaged the situation for the most part. Also, as previously stated, I shouldn't have dulled down the white, although I'm not sure if I like its general interaction with silver trim. I feel like having the bright white I wanted to with a bright silver would get a little lost on the mini, and if I wanted to do the marble white of the armor and have it look good from a distance, I think I would have to darken the trim down to a gunmetal of sorts to make it readable, but I'm not sure how faithful that would be to the original vision. So you may be thinking, John seems a little confident on these color decisions, and I gotta confess something. It turns out, when you put things into a search engine, the search engine gives you results. In an attempt to figure out how to pronounce Fiddy's name, I stumbled into something very peculiar. That's right. The homebrew wiki entry for the Serpentine Truth, complete with pictures. Gotcha, bitch! Now, granted, I had the scheme kind of worked out already, but this pic right here helped me with some particulars I wasn't too sure about. Like I took the purple camo effect and the weapon colors. I kind of interpolated it. That's not the right word. I took it from the sword here, although I think my green is a little too saturated. Probably should be a little lighter. But yeah, I mean, the sword's greenish and red, so I just made the spear greenish and red. So yeah. You thought you could hide something on the internet from me? Yeah, better luck next time, Mr. Nick Buddy. But for real, this homebrew wiki entry is massive. There's so much lore and history here for the Serpentine Truth. I'm going to link it in the description if you guys are interested, because this is great work, honestly. I didn't get a chance to read all of it. I was about a third of the way through, and then my tummy really hurted, so I had to go to the bathroom, and then by the when I came back, I got distracted. But it'll be down there linked. Yeah, it's really cool. Unless he doesn't want people reading it for some reason, in which case this video segment's gonna be really awkward, and yeah, I'll cross that bridge when it comes to it. Anyways, the Dirae are admittedly one of the community submissions I personally really wanted to win, and I'm glad it did, since I really love the concept. Hell-bent on the extinction of the Eldar, they hunt them down endlessly in the name of the Prince of Pleasure. I'm sorry guys, I don't make the rules. That's sick as fuck. My mind was fixated on the idea of like an Eldar headhunter, so before working on the pose, I wanted to nail some skulls to the power pack as like previously beheaded trophies. This is something I'm becoming really fond of, as it essentially uses up some real estate on a Space Marine that I feel doesn't really get utilized normally. But I've got to be careful about overusing it though, or I'm going to end up being the second brown guy with long black hair who collects Black Templar on this side of YouTube nailing skulls to power packs. While I would normally forbid this, just this once, you can call me Eons of Battle at Home, or Diet J, depending. I'm only going to cry a little bit. Anyways, back on topic, I wanted this Marine to be proudly holding up a decapitated head, so I utilized this knife-wielding arm. My general plan was to transfer the knife in the left hand into this right hand, which is currently holding a bolt pistol. With the left hand entirely replaced with this bit from the Grey Knights Strike Squad. That is a really good kit for bits, by the way. I'm glad I got one a long time ago. I chopped the knife on both sides of the hand and clipped away the bolt pistol before drilling a hole through the right hand. This hole would be used for a bit which would ensure the thin connection point of the knife ain't gonna snap off when you toss it around, eh? With the left arm knifeless and handless, I attached it to the body, tilted up to get that big look what I made in art class energy before filling the gap with green stuff. In the original post, it's mentioned that high-ranking members of the Dirae proudly wear the stolen masks of Harlequins, and luckily I happen to have a few of those laying around. Once a strong and proud keeper of Eldari traditions and history, now reduced to a belt buckle. Now that is true comedy. After the belt buckle, I also take a thin piece of wire and glue it around the neck to prepare for making a necklace later. To complete the headhunter aesthetic, I had to modify the decapitated head a little bit, as the current participant is a beheaded demonette. My plan was to cut her face off and graft this dark Eldar head onto where her face once was. This was really finicky, and I was having trouble doing it on camera. But plastic glue and sanding really helped ensure a flush fit. Any minor defects in the transplant could be smoothed out or hidden by blood effects in the painting phase anyways. So I wasn't too concerned about getting a really flush fit, even though I ended up with one anyways. With a slight bending of the decapitated head's hair to orient it properly, the hand was attached permanently. I also made these beforehand, some small soul stones for Dat Boy to wear a nice necklace, making this model ready to paint. As previously stated with the Serpentine Truth, I chose to work from the base of a white primer as, well, I already talked about why, but as I'm blocking in all the black sections with dark gray, you can see that the white just generally looks more white. Like I said, if these smooth surfaces have no edges to highlight, I feel like there's no point in adding that granularity of a light gray to white kind of thing. Although in retrospect, I could have dry brushed the light gray with a white before adding the silver. But, I mean, hey, there's no point in trying to think about what could have been at this point, considering the fact that I'm currently editing the fucking video. I think it's a little late. As this guy has a bit of rank to him as denoted by his elven belt buckle, I painted his loincloth purple as the leader units are adorned with purple. I don't know, maybe he's like a champion or a chosen or that guy. You know, that guy. Speaking of elves, the default hair color of Eldar in my head is red for, you know, a lot of reasons. So that's what I did for the hair. I then gave the model a diluted black wash using Army Painter's black wash. Diluted. I already said diluted. I kept this wash off of the exposed skin, however, as those parts got purple for the Marine and a warm brown for the dead Eldar, in this case, Reikland Flesh Shade. As for the base, it's yet another industrial ship interior base, as seems to always be the case with these Chaos Marines I paint. But there was nothing super complicated with it. From black, I sponged on a gunmetal, gave it a little black wash, gave it a little spotted brown wash. Yeah, it's it's a metal spaceship interior. I gotta admit, I'm reaching the end of my rope with these. There needs to be a development here, or I'm gonna go crazy. I gotta admit, the warband symbol was giving me a lot of trouble, being a hissing snake with wings. I applied this Night Lord transfer to use as a template to paint over, but I swear to God, I tried so hard, dude. I tried so fucking hard to get a hissing snake face that actually looked like a snake face and simultaneously looked good. I repainted this pauldron 6 ways a Sunday, and the pauldron was just getting so chunky from the paint, and I sat there and scrubbed it off with some isopropyl and painted back on. They got chunky again. It was a nightmare. I realize it's probably not what you wanted, as I just settled on doodling on the entire snake instead of just the head. But I feel like the final result is so so laughably fucking stupid. Like, holy shit. My aim for this symbol, if I couldn't impress you, I'm hoping I can make you laugh just enough to forgive me. That's my Hail Mary. And the fact that I had spent like 3 hours on this one fucking pauldron, and I kind of just wanted to jump off a bridge. So yeah, this is my plan B. I hope it works. Besides the totally botched pauldron, the Dirae are a chaos warband with some flavor I'm just absolutely in love with. I love the idea that Slaanesh gives blessings to these guys to just finish off the scraps of Eldar. The lore around Eldar and Slaanesh is so closely intertwined, and these guys kind of just feel like a natural extension of it all. Just young, dumb humans doing dirty work, so the Space Lord of Hentai will finally grant them the sauce to that one cropped panel they've been trying to identify for years. Plus, my dude, it's hard to compete. White, gold, purple, that shit is aesthetic as fuck. Overall, probably my favorite contest winner, personally, just from the lore. But we've got 3 more models to get to, so let's stop dawdling and get to the next one. The Xollokh Dynasty is next up on the list. Besides having a sick-ass name, they are known for their extensive use of canoptic units and modified weaponry. I gotta admit, this one had me stumped for a long time. I thought about kitbashing some cool custom gun together for the model I was going to use, but I had a bag of the leftover Gauss Reapers from Indomitus, and I have no idea where they went. They're just completely gone. Like, that's 20 fucking Gauss Reapers. You don't just misplace those, but they're gone, so I have no idea. For now, I just had to settle with building a single Immortal I ordered and just go with anything I can think of down the road, as like, I don't personally really know a good way to incorporate a canoptic aesthetic onto a basic infantry dude. Sure, it would probably be better off to probably do like a Cryptek, or maybe like one of the little Cryptek guard dudes based on the lore provided. But I don't know. When it comes to Necrons, I think at the end of the day, I just dropped the ball here, guys. I did manage to do one modification to it. A while ago, I refurbished a group of Lich Guard that I got in a Secret Santa trade. The plan was to re-gift them to a friend, not because I didn't want them and I wasn't being lazy, but he actually does play and collect Necrons. The Lich Guard fell apart in my shitty ultrasonic cleaner, but while I was reassembling them, I made a small adjustment. Since they're like the very elite units in the hierarchy, I put a little green stuff in their torso to just boost them up a little bit, make them appear a little more imposing in the crowd. I did the same thing here, putting a pin at the end of the spine that connects to the torso. This pin is going to have super glue and green stuff connected to it, essentially acting as an extra segment in the spine, and giving the model a little bit more height when assembled. Now, I wouldn't really do this for basic Necrons, and I'm generally not a fan of constantly making models bigger or just extending torsos in the name of true scale or quote-unquote primarisifying things, which is the dumbest fucking word I've ever heard in my entire life, just to let you know. I wanted to show it off to you guys to maybe try on your own characters or your own set of Lich Guard. But yeah, when it came to the conversion, I'm sorry. I had a plan, and then it vanished. All 20 of the plans vanished. I'll let you know if they show up, but I'm not really holding my breath at this point. While the Immortal was a fairly straightforward vanilla build, when it came to the base, the only requirement was a sandy Mars aesthetic or a Tomb World base. But I kind of wanted to fuse them together a little bit. I have this box of pencils. I quote-unquote redistributed them when I worked at a golf course in college. I saw someone that cut up a bunch of pencils and bunched them together to make those cool hexagonal basalt, this word, columns you see near like bodies of water, and I had really wanted to try it. Plus, hexagons are kind of Tomb Worldy, right? Generic sci-fi-y? I don't know, man. I really wanted to try a weird technique for what I felt like is a kind of non-standard aesthetic. Using a fine-tooth hobby saw, I sawed these pencils into varying lengths, like a millimeter or two in thickness, with the biggest priority being that my cuts were as straight as they could be, so they would stand up straight on the base. This process was generally a massive fucking mess, with graphite getting all over the place, like it was on my nose. I must have scratched it or something, but keep that in mind if you decide to try this. Put down a piece of paper or have a shop vac or something. When I had some varying lengths, I attached them to the base with gel superglue. I found it was better to start at one side of the base and work towards the opposite, making sure you use some that match in height under your model's feet to stand on. With everything in place, I used some liquid superglue to soak the top of the pencils, which hardened them enough to be sanded smooth when the glue had cured. As for gaps, they don't really have pencil in it because, I couldn't really get, it's a wooden pencil. It's not going to be a perfect shape, But for the gaps and the area around it that's supposed to be the sandy Martian areas, those were just covered with my standard ground basing, that being some playground sand and a few bits of cat litter. I just forgot to film it. So, yeah, let's get to painting. Painting was pretty straightforward, as the majority of the Xollokh Immortal was described as the classic Necron silver. I started from a black primer before spray painting on a bright silver. From there, I mixed up a cream color for the shoulders, or as close as I could to cream. It's a tiny bit on the bone side. I think a dot of yellow might have helped, but hey, practice makes perfect. The head was listed as cream as well in the description, but I felt the stripe on the head being cream could be the wrong move, as that would imply the basic Necron warrior would have a silver head, since the immortal stripe is usually like an accent color of sorts. Regardless, I painted the head cream and left the stripe silver to hopefully imply that his head would be cream without the stripe, if any of that made sense. The areas of Gauss energy are listed as purple, but besides a basic two-tone color on the gun, I really struggled to get a good gradient on the spine cable part. While I had left it bare for now, as I'm really bad with getting a blend that looks good on a big area like this, towards the end of the project, I did come back in with a basic dry brush and glaze it to ensure it didn't look unfinished, but I think it kind of just ended up exactly where it was. With the cabling set up, I gave the whole model a wash with a mix of black and brown wash diluted with glazed medium. The shoulders and face got some basic edge highlighting as well. The base was quick, but not in a lazy way. I painted the rocks black and the Martian sands a browny red before dry brushing the entire base with a highlight of that browny red. I just took that color and mixed it into a glob of orange, as opposed to adding orange to the original mix. You just use a lot less paint. But dry brushing it over the sand and the hexagonal rocks gave it the dusty sands blowing over the rocks appearance that I was going for. While I initially read the colors for this mini, I was a bit skeptical on silver, purple, and red all looking good together, but after putting it all together, I'm very glad to report that those fears were pretty insubstantial. The silver and black's neutrality don't clash with the overall red and purple, and the cream doesn't really stand out either, for a reason I can't really put my pinky finger on. But overall, I think having the general colors in the red, purplish, it's like the same kind of area of the color wheel. I think it all looks really good. I'm also extremely happy with how this base idea came out. I would call this a success on any day of the week. If you were doing this for an entire army, I'd probably use a few less chunks of pencil for a single model, maybe like 2 or 3, and then scale it up for bigger models. But man, it looks damn good here, honestly. My main regret for this mini is not being able to find my blue stuff mold for scarabs. I wanted to put a little scarab on the base, but I couldn't find it, and I was super paranoid about the deadline, so I had to make do without it. The second highest scoring participant in the competition were the Skyborne. To start this mini off, fuck you. Yeah, you. You know, this guy. According to your post, the chapter utilizes a lot of Phobos armor, and I cannot stand Phobos armor. It does nothing for me aesthetically, and I just can't bring myself to like it. So when it came to needing a Phobos Marine, I was dig out, dude. I considered converting an Assault Intercessor into Phobos armor, but I somehow reasoned myself out of that insanity, although, looking at it, I think it'd be doable. I also thought of buying a single model like I did with the Immortal, but one single model was like $12 after shipping, but the whole sprue of 5 was $23. Like, why not just add the extra $10 for a complete set? You know? So, against every bone in my body, I traded my own freedom dollars for Phobos Marines, and I hope you're proud of finding new and intricate ways to hurt me over the internet. Nah, for real, this is a good thing. I'm just joshing you. While I'm using one Marine from the set of 5 right now, that just means I can poach this kit for 4 Phobos Marines down the line for my lore series. Plus, there are honestly some good bits in here that could fit on anything like pouches and certain commander-style arms. Admittedly, I just wanted to take my chance to give you a hard time. Yeah, that's it. When it came to building the Skyborne Marine, I couldn't really think of any major modifications outside of just building a basic infiltrator. Like, I didn't want to make it seem like I put less effort into some minis with no big, elaborate sculpt job, but just from the description, I couldn't really, think of anything that suited it. I considered, a camo cloak or a shamag or, a scarf or something, but I didn't think something as big as a camo cloak would really be conducive to the role that you basically summarized as paratroopers. You don't really want a lot of loose parts when you're jumping from low orbit, you know? I don't know. I feel like there's something here, but I missed an opportunity. But I'm telling you, man, I was so paranoid about this deadline, and I don't know why, but I had to call it and move on. At some point in painting this mini, I had received an eBay auction that I won for a bunch of leftover Primaris sprues. However, when I opened the box, I quickly realized that there were about 8 extra sprues thrown into the box, including one that actually had some grav shoots on them. This was a crazy auction, though. Essentially 2 untouched boxes of intercessors with 10 plus extra sprues full of trinkets, pouches, arms with cool poses, and some out of print sprues even for $40. $20 less than just buying a new box of intercessors. I'm definitely going to be harvesting this bits box in the future, which includes now, because I'm going to be putting those grav shoots on at some later point. And yes, this means I have another bits box, and you guys will still never know how many I have. I will not tell you. The base is described as grassy with some rocks, but given that their fortress monastery is in the mountains, I wanted to take advantage of that and having this one Marine's leg up pose. Instead of a flat base with a few rocks, I used some cork cut down to make it look like the Marine was on a slightly rocky slope. While I don't normally condone lazily using cork as rocks to make your minis taller, I did my best to prevent the height of the mini from getting too crazy, like somebody slapping an inch of cork onto a base like some kind of troglodyte. The cork was stiffened with liquid superglue and the gaps were filled with sand. And while it looks a little too rocky right now, the grass I applied later should even it all out and make it look like a nice hillside, which is kind of what I wanted. I feel like a hillside was the logical in-between of grasslands and mountain. I also had a small dilemma on which direction the mini should face, but someone eventually just picked one for me. From a black primer, I started smashing on a flat green. The Skyborne features an interesting color scheme. There's genuinely nothing wrong with it. I just like, man, dude, this chunk of words was not making sense in my brain. I was 3 seconds away from drawing it out in paint, but spelling it out like a brain dead toddler made it all fall into place for me. With the base coats applied, I attached the arm holding his gun before applying a diluted black and brown wash. After the wash dried, it felt like the green was a little tiny bit too bright to be described as quote-unquote Caliban green. While this meant I should have mixed a tiny bit of black or a dark gray into my initial green base coats, I can remedy this with another all-over shade with diluted black wash, which brought the color of the green closer to something Lionel Johnson would approve of. Also, during recording, I just remembered that I have a pot literally called Caliban Green in my paint drawer. I am a fucking moron. The chapter heraldry is described as the U.S. Army parachuting symbol with a skull in the middle. While I could have freehanded something, I decided to butcher some water slides to make something a bit more in line aesthetically. Plus, I had just fucked up pretty much every other pauldron on this project too. I wanted one of them to look good. I marked the center of the pauldron and applied a tiny little skull before chopping up 2 raven wing transfers to place on either side of the skull. Personally, I think it turned out pretty well, with only a parachute above the skull that needed to be freehanded. With that, I applied some grass flocking and took my victory lap on the base. Even though they're wearing probably my least favorite armor pattern, I really like how this mini came out. Even with 2 washes on it, the panels have a nice smooth gradient to them, a testament to the true power of just, thinning your washes a little bit, I suppose. I don't really know if infiltrators can take grav shoots, so I was a bit hesitant to slap them on when I got that sprue, but they have the infiltrate rule, so I guess they gotta get deployed upstream somehow. Plus it matches the lore for the chapter, and it looks pretty cool, so whatever. I really like how the Frankenstein's heraldry came out as well. I think it looks proper 40k while still getting the original inspiration across. And like I said, it prevented me from messing up freehanding for 5 hours, which is a disappointment, honestly, because I seem to be really enjoying that for this project. Just really can't get my fill of fucking up freehanding when it's somebody else's model, apparently. So yeah, egg on the face for that one. The big bad community champion, the Karnivores with a K. What do you think, you're Mortal Kombat with a K in your name? You think you're better than me? Gonna Hadoken my ass or something? Do it, bitch. Or should I say, bikt? I'm sorry, I'm having fun being oddly confrontational today. The Karnivores scored the highest amount of likes on the Your Dudes community post with a whopping 21 likes. The Karnivores are noted as wearing furs and chains. While I thought I had some chain, it apparently had been lost to the warp, so I went with a backup plan. I wanted to do a fur waistcloth / loincloth combo, as the default model's thigh and waist area I felt were a little slim and bare. While I've done fur in various methods on the channel, I wanted to try the method shown on Jam's mini mods, essentially rolling tiny cones of putty and sticking them on one clump of fur at a time. To start this off, I trimmed off the holster and grenades on the hip. This left me room to lay down that small square of combined green stuff and milliput as the frame. Some people are calling it gorilla put. I'm not calling it that. I'm still in mourning, but after loosely applying this, I trimmed it down to shape, removing it to allow me to glue it and make sure it really doesn't move while I'm working on it. From there, I started rolling little cones of putty, and I've got some immediate criticism for both the technique and my execution. This shit took forever. Like, forever. Like, by the time I finished this fur, I had almost made it through 3 episodes of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and those are 40-minute episodes. Compared to faster fur techniques as well, I don't know. I most of the blame for this rests at my feet for being unfamiliar with this method. I had to learn how to layer the fur, and compared to the tutorial video, my clumps of fur are just way too long. Like, this is not long-haired fur. This is extremely long L'Oreal Maybelline fur. There's long-haired animals, and then scalping Fabio for a butt cape, which is what I did here apparently. And funnily enough, I had hoped this would bulk up the waist area just slightly, but after I had finished, it looked like he was just kind of wearing a ballroom dress. The length of the fur definitely got out of hand. This was pretty eye-opening, though. I want to sit down at some point and just sculpt a bunch of fur of varying hair lengths with different tech and compare them, but right now I need to practice this one a little more before feeling really confident enough to talk about it. I didn't want to redo it on one hand because it took me so goddamn long, but mainly because I want it to serve as a reminder for the next time I try. Plus, somebody out there might really like this look. Just be careful on the sides. Don't go for the ballroom dress look. I wanted to continue the fur onto the back of the collar and the back of the torso, so I attached a few pieces of fur up there before gluing on the left arm, in this case a chainsword arm. I also raided my Secret Santa box for this right arm from, I believe, an Age of Sigmar Blood Warriors kit. I've got a bag of like 10 of these. Yeah, I don't know why. I didn't even bother changing the pauldron to a 40k one, since the one on this arm had this really cool like metal fence spike thing on it that yeah, I really like that. That's good shit. With the arms on, I could finish the fur on the back and attach this head from, I believe, is the same kit, because it had this cool feral look and corn symbol stamped directly on the forehead. The Karnivores feature longer butcher's nails described as dreadlocks, so I rolled out even more tubes and stuck them onto his head, first filling out the bottom, then working on his hairline. This was pretty easy, as I just used an X-Acto knife to cut it straight when I was done. Then, when the putty had cured, I cut the bottoms of the dreadlocks flat to give it a more dreadlocky appearance. When it comes to painting the capital K Karnivores, I started from a black prime and started adding on layers of red, being careful to keep it thin so it doesn't get thick and gummy. While a second look at the physical description mentioned these white fangs of some kind, it honestly just perplexed the shit out of me. I'm sorry. Did you mean fangs as in the warband symbol? Because I guess it kind of works out that I used the pauldrons that I did, because neither of them have room for a design anyways. Like, you said you wanted a lot of skulls in your description, and I saw the pauldron that was like 30 skulls, and I was like, hell yeah, man, I'm gonna hook my dude up with some fucking skulls. So, I don't know. It's entirely possible that I might just be stupid. Actually, that's pretty guaranteed. It's just a matter of degree of stupidity at this point. Besides the mystery of the white panels, there was no armor panel color scheme specified, So I decided on a half red, half black panel scheme with the right arm. Well, I mean, it's on the screen. You guys can see it. The fur was dry brushed with a neutral gray, and the trim areas were done with silver in preparation for the wash stage. With a bony tan on the bones and the exposed skin, I gave the whole mini a diluted brown wash, which put everything pretty much exactly where I wanted it, actually. As a final touch, my guy wanted a lot of blood, so I loaded up the toothbrush I normally use for stripping minis with a tiny touch of water and some blood for the blood god, and threw some spatters all over him. I gotta work on my aim though, as half of this ended up on my main monitor, but I was watching Buffy, so it didn't really look too out of place. While I didn't want it to seem like the entry with the most votes got like ultra special sculpting attention when it came to converting, it was more like the conversion work that needed to be done was fairly straightforward and simple, except the pelt. I feel like that's a shining example of too much time for not enough reward, but that's entirely on me. I just need to get better with this technique, so I feel like that was why I was a little more willing to invest a little extra time into it. But I learned some pretty good lessons, I guess. It's true, my normal fur making method would have been a lot faster, in my opinion, a little better looking and not as wide. But yeah, I'm gonna go back and watch that tutorial a little more. I want to see exactly what I was doing wrong and do it so my hands can learn, the correct technique. But overall, I really like the Karnivores. You got a very cool warband here, my guy, and that's cool with a K, so that means I'm serious. And here's the final spinning shot of all the lucky winners of the first Your Dudes contest. This was really fun and enlightening to me, besides the mass panic I instilled in myself with some deadline. It kind of made me realize how much of different 40k aesthetics I don't really dabble in. For instance, the Necron model, and it definitely marks a spot where I can improve on in the future. We had over 30 entrants on the original post, and I'm extremely thankful to have a community as supportive as you guys, eager to have me mangle your faction for everyone to see. This project, and honestly this entire channel, would genuinely not be possible without you guys, and I'm just beyond thankful. If you were particularly ass mad that your faction didn't win, don't fret, because Your Dudes is something I do want to do on occasion, maybe to fill in a little low spot in the schedules, So if you aren't already, I would appreciate a subscription if you think I earned it, and be sure to keep an eye on my community tab. Not only is the next Your Dudes competition probably going to take place there, I generally try to post there a lot. Sometimes just little shit posts, but I try to combine it with some kind of update for the video productions or video schedules. And if you're eager to support me a little more, I do have a Patreon now for a bunch of assorted perks and sneak peeks at things. It's a little bare bones right now since it's fairly new, but I post work and project and behind the scenes photos there with a regular workbench update every Sunday until I forget, and then I'll do it as soon as possible. Occasionally I'll have a poll for important video schedule or channel questions. Like I have a very big project I'm planning, kind of setting the groundwork for, and I asked my patrons for some input on that. But occasionally you'll probably also get some bonus unrelated stuff as well. I just finished the animes Noir and Dot Hack Sign, and I need a place to talk about them. I feel like I've got thoughts on them, and I need to inflict them on someone. So, I don't know, my patrons will probably get that. But yeah, thank you for watching, guys. Like I said, couldn't have done this without you. Figuratively, literally, metaphorically. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.